Hello and welcome to the Results of Ronnie podcast series, MrRelationshipMan.com. And I want to thank you for this week's podcast. And this is an interesting one because this is kind of sort of a part two. Now, this broadcast is brought to you by Dating Discussions with Ronnie and Yashika. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. And there we talk of dating, relationships, and sex from the positions of being a woman and being a man as well. Well, today's subject is going to cover is masculinity conditional? Well, I could give you a long drawn out answer and at the very end give you what I feel is the answer. What I won't do then, what I will do is just say in short form, no, masculinity is not conditional, nor is it expected to be. You know, it's funny because as you look at modern day social media, memes, discussions, blogs, you hear things going along with women stating, I will be feminine when a man does ABC. I will be feminine when the environment is ABC. I will be, or I will allow him to lead if he does ABC. However, men don't get that privilege. Now, there are those women, and I will never get into the space where I'm going to say all women. And you can debate whether there's some women, most women. If you want to have that argument, have it all day long. I'm just going to say that there are spaces of women that really truly believe that femininity is conditional or is something that you can just turn on and off. And as men, we really don't fall into that mindset. We really don't. We believe that there's something that femininity is something that is always there, or you choose not to express it, suppress it. But see, with men and masculinity, we don't get those types of means and that mindset and those speaks where we can say, well, we're masculine when a woman does ABC. Men are expected to be men 24/7, 365. We're supposed to be there to protect, provide, nurture, marry. I mean, you name it. Men are supposed to be supermen all the time. And you know what's funny is I talk to the men, we never really looked at masculinity as being something that is a switch you can turn off and on. And that's just really the way we were raised. Even if you look at where their baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Ys, millennials, men are expected to be men 24/7. And here's what I think is incredible. As I speak to the men, they have no problem with that. Now, what we can debate is what is the definition of masculinity? Now, of course, I can give you what we call the textbook definition of masculinity. Matter of fact, let's look this up while we're here in real time. Okay, masculinity. Qualities, attributes regarded as characteristics of men. Handsome, muscled, and driven. He's a prime example of masculinity. Another definition, masculinity is a quality of manliness, habits and traits that society considers to be appropriate for a man. Some typical traits of masculinity include physical strength, a muscular body, facial hair, and the list goes on. Now, again, masculinity is 24/7, 365. And then there's discussions where men believe that masculinity is under attack. And I'll be honest with you, the more I read and listen to different blogs, social platforms, as well as if you look at TV and some form in movies, I concur. It's like masculinity is a bad thing. For some reason, masculinity is something to be feared. And then you have this narrative of toxic masculinity, as if toxicity had some form of agenda. I didn't know that. But again, when you're trying to push an agenda, you can create anything out of thin air and make anything look bad. But yes, there are spaces where masculinity is somehow, or spaces where they're trying to diminish this. And it's not healthy for humanity because there is a place for masculinity. Masculinity is needed, masculinity is healthy. Allow boys to be boys, men to be men. Now, listen, are there spaces where men have, I think, a very unhealthy view of what masculinity is? I would agree with that on some spaces. There are those men who think that masculinity is something that's just very always aggressive and angry, not really caring, nurturing, emotionless. And that's not masculinity at all. Not healthy masculinity. I believe masculinity is something that is your brother's keeper. It's looking out for other men and the young men as well. It's coaching, it's mentoring, it's giving a hand, a leg up. It's enlightening, it's empowering. It provides leadership to communities, legacy to families. That's what I believe masculinity plays a part in. I can go on and on with the positive adjectives, but you pretty much get the gist of what I'm talking about. Now, as I stated earlier, masculinity is not conditional. I can't think of a space where men are even allowed to even share those thoughts. So again, let me make this clear. Masculinity is not conditional. I believe masculinity, again, is needed in the world. Masculinity has done a lot of wonderful things for communities, families, churches, countries, and for women. Women need healthy masculinity. And of course, there are those women who want you to believe that they don't. But give it time, they understand the benefits, especially when they learn what healthy masculinity looks like. Now, this podcast in particular is not going to be a long one. I just really want to take a time in a few moments to get to the point to let you know that if there's one thing my platform is aimed at doing, is promoting healthy masculinity, nurturing healthy masculinity with the young men that are coming up in the world today. It is to spread the message that masculinity is something that is needed, is something to be respected and honored. There is honor in healthy masculinity. Masculinity is accepting that we're always a work in progress, that we care for our fellow man and woman, that we are protectors, that we are providers, that we are strong and healthy. So I hope for those of you who had some questions about masculinity and whether it is conditional, no, I don't believe it is. And I'm sure that if you ask enough men, they will all concur. So with that, I'm going to end this podcast on a very short note. It's probably not the longest one that I've given, but I really just wanted to just get straight to the point. Because if there's one thing I do know, is that as a man, I am proud to be in my masculine energy. And the women that I share the spaces with enjoy and embrace that as well. I'm proud of the fact that I've continued to do work on myself from the past as well, working on myself, and that I do add value to those men and women that I have the privilege to be in contact with. So, as Ronnie Walker, master coach of exceptional relating, dating, relationships, and sex, and a very masculine man, I thank you for tuning in and listening. And if there's any questions, you can reach out to resultswithronnie@gmail.com. Again, that's resultswithronnie@gmail.com. You can also go to a true man's website at mrrelationshipmancave.com. That's mrrelationshipmancave.com. And there you will find any and all resources pertaining to men. And it's all empowering masculinity. So I thank you. And you can reach this podcast at mrrelationshipman.com. And thank the sponsor, Taking Discussions with Ronnie and Yashika. I look forward to speaking to you next week. Thank you for your continued support. All the best to you and yours, and to the brothers out there. Stay and be proud of your masculine energy. Take care.